Good evening all once again. Now, yesterday we started with segment reporting and we just saw the basics, how the segments are classified, or you have geographical segments, you have business segments, right? And I think we had covered only up till the definition of business segment and what are the factors which have to be considered to decide whether the products and services are taken together as a group or they have to be considered as separate business segments. And we saw very much live examples. We saw the examples of Maruti and all yesterday, right? We talked about Ramraj and also many practical examples we took. So let us proceed from where we stopped yesterday. Now I'll first go on with the definition of geographical segments and then we'll proceed ahead. Now, what is the definition of geographical segments? So it is similar to the business segment only, and only difference over here is we are doing business in various geographical locations, and every location will have a different risk and return as compared to the other location. That will be the difference. In business segment, we saw the definition. It's a distinguishable component of an enterprise which deals in product, single product or group of products. Here the same logic, deals in product or group of products, but in different geographical locations. So let us read the definition, what it says. A geographical segment is a distinguishable component. Distinguishable component means it's a separate part or a separate operation of an enterprise which is engaged in providing product or services within a particular economic environment, and it is subject to risk and returns that are different from those of other segments operating in other economic environment. Now, when we use the word economic environment, sir, it is nothing but geographical locations. So we are basically doing business in various geographical locations, and the risk and return of each such geographical location is different as compared to the other geographical locations, right? It includes, now please understand, these are the points to be noted whether to decide that the two geographical locations can be considered as one single segment or it has to be considered as two different segments. Now, what are the various similarities that you should have in two different geographical locations? If you have these points in similar, then no need to consider two different geographical locations as two different geographical segments. You can consider them as one segment only. But if the points are not common, if these points do not match between two locations, then technically both the locations will be considered as two different geographical segments. So what are the points? First, similarity of economic and political conditions means the type of customers, or I would say the business opportunities of both the locations are same, and even the political situation or the political conditions are also same. Because it happens, see, when we are doing business in different geographical areas, the political support or the political views of different states or different cities are different from one another. Now, for example, if you go to Bengal to do a business, their communist party is there. So communist party ideology is different as compared to BJP. A communist party doesn't want change. They are sticking to the old traditions only, old customs and traditions. So if you want to do something new over there, they will not support you. The same thing had happened with Tata. Tata had set up a nano factory in West Bengal. After setting up of the factory, Mamata Banerjee compelled to remove the entire factory because they told, no, our farmers will do farming only. They will not work in the factory. So Tata had to shift the entire factory from Shingur in West Bengal to Gujarat. And Narendra Modi offered them land over there. Because Narendra Modi said, you please come and open a big industry because so many people will get employment. Farming land is gone, but so many people will get employment for so many n number of years. So that was their ideology. So different political conditions may arise. But if you are working in a similar economic and political condition, then sir, no need to consider two locations as two segments. Make them as one segment only. Then relationship between operations means the operations that you are carrying on are similar. They are related to one another. Then in that case, both segments take it as one. Means in the morning batch, I gave an example. Relation with the operation is, sir, one. What is page number? Sir, I am actually using the material that I already forwarded yesterday. I'm not using the JKSC book. You can just search it around. No, you're asking me what is the page number. No, I don't know, sir. I'm sorry. Page number 74. Somebody has sent. Page number 74. Okay. Next is relationship between operation means, say for example, you have one factory in Bangalore, and one factory is in Hubli, right? And both of them are related to one another because end of the day they manufacture the same things, right? End of the day they manufacture the same things, and certain operations of them are exactly similar. So why to consider them as two different geographical locations? Why? Because end of the day they're manufacturing or producing the same things. Then proximity of operations means similarity or closeness of the operations. So if similar operations are being carried on, then why to consider two locations as two different segments? Consider them as one segment only. Any special risk? As I said, Bengal, you will always have a special risk. What? Mamata Banerjee. She is only the risk, right? So if a particular location has some specific risk as in, sir, environmental risk, every now, for example, if we go and open a factory in Uttarakhand, so there is always a problem of the clouds getting burst and floods will arise. Or there is, if you go and open a factory in Jammu and Kashmir, there is always a probability that riots might take place, right? Curfew section 144 is almost every time put in that particular city. So that is why we say there is special risk. So if you are operating in such a location which is having a special risk as compared to some other locations, then that can be considered as a separate geographical segment. Then exchange control regulations and underlying exchange risk. These are with respect to foreign operations. As if you are working or trying to have a geographical location in the foreign country, then the countries with the similar exchange system, that is similar currencies are there, similar fluctuations take place. In that case, you can have consider them as one single geographical segment only. Means, for example, if I'm having my geographical location of doing business in Dubai and I also do business in Sharjah, then technically Dubai and Sharjah for us are foreign operations, but end of the day, the currency of Dubai and Sharjah is same, that is dirhams. So exchange fluctuations will be same for them, and if there is any currency risk, that will also be same, because it is not like that the dirham rate in Dubai will fall too much and dirham rate in Sharjah will not fall, because end of the day, entire Dubai dirhams are accepted. So whether you go to Sharjah, whether you go to Dubai or you go to Abu Dhabi, end of the day, all the three cities have the same currency only. Right? So these are the points. If these points are similar, then no need to consider two different locations as two different segments. But if these points are in common, then consider the two different locations as one business segment. Sorry, one geographical segment. So this is the basic definition of geographical segment. Right? Now, if you remember, yesterday I had left point number 4, types of segment. Now, sir, we have already decided that an enterprise can have two types of segments, business segment and geographical segment. Correct? Now, if you are having two types of segments, for an enterprise, it is always important to ascertain that who are primary reportable segments and who are secondary reportable segments. But, sir, why it is done? I'll tell you one thing, one simple point. Sir, with respect to primary reportable segments, you have to give lots of disclosure, means detailed disclosures are required. But when I say about secondary reportable segment, only few disclosures are required. So first, as a management, you have to draw a line between these two segments, means who is primary and who is secondary. So if you say that my business segments are primary reportable, then automatically geographical segments become secondary reportable. Or some may say, no sir, for us geographical segments are primary reportable and business segments are secondary reportable. Fine sir, but on what basis do you say this? Sir, only one simple logic. Which type of segments predominantly affects the risk and rewards of your enterprise? So it is what? Whether it is the product or services which affects your enterprise, or is it the geographical locations which affect the business, which affects the risk and reward of your business? So you have to ascertain that first. Sir, but on what grounds shall I ascertain? Sir, you have to ascertain that on the grounds on what basis your organizational structure is. How you report in your enterprise means you report on the basis of product and service wise sales, or you report on the basis of locational wise sales. Means you focus on what? How is your management hierarchy? Is your management hierarchy made on the basis of product and services, or it is based on the locational? Means, say for example, sir, I have a president sales, I have a vice president sales, I have a sales manager, I have an assistant sales manager. So technically, you are also deriving your hierarchy on the basis of your product and services. But some people will have, sir, vice president for a particular area, area manager, senior area manager, right? So your hierarchy is based on what? On the basis of the location of your particular business, right? So it depends upon these areas, like how you report and how your hierarchy is made. So many people, they report on the basis of products and services. Even if you remember, yesterday I gave you an example of the Tata Titan Limited. I saw the segment report of Titan. Did I tell this? No. I'm actually a shareholder of Titan. So Titan sent me the third quarter financial statements, and in the third quarter financial statements, they also sent the segment report. And those people are considering their business segments as the primary segments, because Titan is doing business in across the country. But for them, it is their products who are predominantly affecting the risk and reward. And what were the segments of Titan? First was Titan watches. Second was Titan I Plus. That the Titan I Plus store is there, and that is one of their segment. Third was Tanishq Jewelry. Tanishq Jewelry is also under Titan only. And I think fourth was Fast Track Accessories. These were the four segments which they had made. And maximum sales was generated by Titan only. So they are basically doing the hierarchy on the basis of the different products and services. So they will be having some what we say managerial level for Tanishq, managerial level for Titan, managerial level for Fast Track. They will not be having on the basis of their locations. Their main focus will be what? On their products. So if any product goes wrong, it is going to affect all their locations. But for some enterprise, it is purely location. Best example is Ramraj. For Ramraj location, in South only they do business. If they go in North, it will be a disaster for them. That is why I think Ramraj people don't go to North. Right? So if Ramraj is doing business, say for example in North also and in South also, so technically it will have the geographical segments as primary reportable. Because product and service doesn't predominantly affect their business, it is location which predominantly affects their business. Because the business in the North will be pathetic as compared to the business in the South. Right? So I'll just read this point for you first. What it says, point number 4. We are reading the point number 4 now. Segmentation. Just a minute. Yeah. Segmentation can be done on the basis of products or services, or a group of related products or services that we saw yesterday. And segmentation can also be done on the basis of geographical locations. Now, whether segmentation should be primarily product wise, which we call it as primary reportable segments, or geographical wise, depends on whether the primary risk is due to the products or services, or it is due to the geographical area. So it is the management who has to decide this, that what predominantly affects, means who is affecting a lot to your risk and reward of the whole enterprise. Is it the product and services, or is it the geographical locations? So to identify the primary risk, the internal organization and management structure, internal organization, that is your hierarchy, how you have posted people, your management structure, and its system of reporting to the board of directors. System of reporting means how you are reporting. You are reporting product wise or you are reporting area wise. That is what is important. Reporting to the board of directors or CEO of the company should be considered. So many companies, I'll tell you one thing, for many enterprises, for many companies, business segments only become primary reportable because they say that our products are only predominantly affecting our enterprise. It is not the location. Now, for example, Tata, if I talk about Tata, Sir, for Tata Motors, I don't think so. The location is any problem because across the country, Tata vehicles are sold, sir. So even if they have divided into north region, south region, sir, I don't think so there is a problem. I would say one thing that in the rural areas, people buy more Tata cars. In the urban cities, I don't know whether how many people buy Tata car, but in rural, I see now I am very much close to a rural area because I'm in a three-tier city. So when you are in a three-tier city, after 6 or 7 kilometers, rural areas start. So I see lot of Tata vehicles over here, lots and lots of Tata vehicles. So I don't think so. Tata may be saying that it is the geographical locations who are predominantly affecting the risk and reward of the enterprise. It is purely the product. Because see, for Tata Motors, if one or two cars don't become successful, it can affect the entire company. It can affect the entire company. So in some areas, it is purely the product and services, but in some areas, it is purely the geographical locations. But sir, what if, say an enterprise says that, sir, it is location as well as the product and services, both affects the risk and return of my enterprise. So whom should I consider primary and whom should I consider secondary? So if you can see, I have written something over here. If business segments and geographical segments both predominantly affect the risk and reward of enterprise, then always, as per AS 17, business segments are primary segments. So AS 17 has directly given this assumption that if business as well as geographical segments both predominantly affect your business, then you always have to go with the assumption of AS 17 that business segments are reportable primary and geographical segments are reportable secondary. I hope you people understand this point. Now, so let us take a simple example. Sir, my enterprise has 15 business segments and 10 geographical segments. So technically, in total, I have 25 segments. And I say business is primary and geographical is secondary. So for 15 business segments, I have to give extensive disclosure, lots and lots of disclosure. And for the 10 geographical segments, they are secondary, but still I have to disclose something. So technically, I have to give disclosures for 25 segments. Can I say this is going to be a big task? Because first you have to make your enterprise financial statements. After that, you have to divide segments and segment-wise revenue, segment-wise expenses. Segment-wise means Titan Limited, when I saw their segment reporting, they gave all the total revenues of Titan, total revenues of Tanishq, total revenues of Titan I+. Then what is the total expenses of all these? What are the total assets? What are the total liabilities? What are the new assets that they have bought? All these things, depreciations charged, impairment losses charged, all these things were disclosed. It's not that easy. So what AS 17 says, AS 17 says, fine, I will reduce your certain burden. How? AS 17 says, you have to follow my materiality test. Means you have to apply the materiality test to all your segments, and if the segment passes materiality test, then only those segments should be reported. So your burden is reduced, because out of your 25 segments, it is not possible that all the segments will pass the materiality test. So AS 17 says those who have passed the materiality test, for them only you please give the what we say reporting, and for others no need to report. I said okay. So what is the materiality test? Sir, here you can find para 27, para 28 and para 29. Important, the para numbers to be noted now. First, para 27A, 27B and 27C. These three tests are called as the materiality test. We'll be learning this in detail, not to worry. Then comes para 28 and finally comes para 29, which is called as the overall test. So before the overall test, you have to go for the materiality test. So what it says, it is a business or geographical is identified on the basis of foregoing definition for which segment information is required to be disclosed by the financial statement. I know why this, why I wonder why the point is given. We simply say, don't read that line also. Why it is given, I'm not understanding. Simple terms, sir, a business segment or a geographical segment should pass this test. If this test is passed, then only a segment becomes reportable, or else that particular segment has to be ignored. That is point number one. That is what para 27A, B and C says. So there are three tests technically, 27A, 27B, 27C. You have to fulfill any one. You have to fulfill any one. If you fulfill any one, congratulations, that segment becomes reportable. Then what is para 28 saying? Sir, para 28 says, if say for example, one of your segment has not fulfilled the para 27 test, fine. Management has the option to report it. Means even if it has not fulfilled the para 27 test, management at its own discretion can make the segment reportable. So management has got this power. So first you have to apply para 27. Para 27 not satisfied. Then shall I leave the segment? Yes, you have to leave it. No need to report. But management feels that no, yeah, this segment should not be left. This is a important segment. We think it is material. It does not fulfill the test, but we feel it is material. Fine, you can report it. And finally comes para 29. This we'll discuss later. So what exactly is para 27 test? What exactly is para 27 test? I want everybody to please focus over here. Para 27 materiality test. Sir, three tests, 27A, 27B and 27C. What are these tests? Sir, the first test is revenue test. Second is result test. And third is asset test. Now what you have to do over here? Sir, in revenue test, what is the logic? The logic says your segment's revenue, internal plus external. Internal plus external means sold to outside people, sold to outside customers, and internal means inter-segment sales. It is very much similar to the inter-departmental sales. Means one segment is selling goods or services to other segment. Right? That is possible. So when you consider your segment's revenue, you should consider internal plus external both sales, and your segment's revenue should be greater than or equal to 10% of the total segment revenue. So first you will take the total segment's revenue and calculate 10% of it and check individual segment's revenue whether it is greater than or equal to 10% or not. If it is, then you say revenue test is satisfied. And here also when you take total segment's revenue, technically it has to be external plus internal both. So this is the first test. If you fulfill this, I don't think so there is requirement of checking the further test. But say a segment does not fulfill this, then you have to come to the second test, that is called as the result test. Now result test is nothing but profit or loss test. Means you have to check the profit or loss of your particular segment. So what is it? This is a bit tricky. Please focus everybody. We have written examples also for this. Segment result is same, greater than or equal to, segment result is greater than or equal to 10% off, higher off. Means that is point number A and point number B. So higher of A and B will be taken here and 10% of that you have to take. So what is A and B point? All segments total profits or all segments total loss. Consider loss as an absolute figure. Means there may be some segments who are in profits and there may be some segments who are in losses. So you have to take the total profits of all segments and total losses of all segments and compare whichever is higher. So whosoever is higher, take 10% of that figure. Please try to understand this with this example. A, B, C, D, E, F. Total 6 segments are there. These are what? segments, correct? And this is their result, correct? So there are total 6 segments and this is their result. A 20 rupees profit, B 30 rupees loss, C 50 rupees profit, D 10 rupees loss, E 15 rupees loss, and F 25 rupees loss. So who all are in profits? Sir, I think only A and C are in profits. So take the total profit. Profit A and C, 20 plus 50, 70 rupees total profit. Correct? Now who are in losses? Sir, B, D, E, F. 4 segments are in losses. So please take the total loss. B, D, E, F. Take the loss. 10, 30 plus 10 plus 15 plus 25. Total is 80. Now consider loss as an absolute figure. Don't consider loss as a negative figure, because then always losses will be less than profits because they will be negative. So don't take them into negative. Consider them as positive figure only. Correct? So 70 or 80, whichever is higher. Who is higher? Sir, 80 is higher. Now you take 10% of 80. So what is 10% of 80? Sir, 8 rupees. How much? 8 rupees. So now you compare this 8 rupees with the individual results of all these segments. So individual results of all these segments should be greater than or equal to 8 rupees. And I think, sir, all these segments, whether they are in profit or loss, it is greater than 8 rupees. Yes or no? So all the 6 are fulfilling the materiality test 27B. So all the 6 are reportable segments. So whether it is loss or whether it is profit, no problem. Consider everything as absolute figures only. So individual segment result is greater than or equal to 10% of higher of. So in our case, 10% of higher is 8 rupees. So all your individual segments are having a result greater than 8 rupees. I hope you are getting the point. Right? Now the last is simple asset test. Now what is asset test? Sir, your individual segments asset should be greater than or equal to 10% of total segment assets. Simple. So these are the 3 materiality tests. So whosoever segment has fulfilled the materiality test, they become reportable segments. Means they qualify to be reported. And the segments, those who have not fulfilled, they have to be left. They need not be reported. But if the management is of the opinion that no, they have to be reported, then management can definitely report them. That is the choice of the management. And that power is given to management by para 28. By para 28. And sir, trust me, on para 27, exam questions have been asked. Practical questions have been asked from the materiality test. So it is purely calculative. All data will be provided to you. Segment revenues will be provided, segment results will be provided, segment assets will be provided. You just have to apply the materiality test and tell the answer that who are reportable and who are not. Right? I hope you are getting the point. So now we try to understand the overall test. Can you show these examples in a single page for a second? We'll try. Yeah, para 27 completely in one page. Para 27 completely in one page. Okay, I'll change the screen now. I'll go for the next topic, that is para 29. Now, sir, what exactly? I'll just give you the overview of para 29 first. Now, sir, whosoever segments have fulfilled para 27 materiality test, they are becoming compulsorily reportable segments. But sir, still, for all these reportable segments, we have to fulfill an overall test. And the overall test is also, you can say it is the father of materiality test. Means that would actually give a final answer that the segments that you have considered as reporting, how much material they are, right? And if those fulfill para 29 overall test also, then they can be definitely reported. But sometimes it happens that, sir, the segments which you have considered as per para 27 as reportable, they will not fulfill para 29 test. So in such case, what you have to do is, if they are not fulfilling para 29, then some more segments are added up to fulfill the criteria. Some more segments means the segments which have not fulfilled the para 27 test and we have ignored those segments. Management can take few segments from there, add up and try to fulfill the 29 para 29 overall test. And if it fulfills, then all these segments which are considered to fulfill para 29 will be reported. Now let us try and understand what the overall test is all about. See what is written. Overall test has to be fulfilled by all reportable segments to be reported. If overall test not fulfilled, then management can add some more segments as reportable to fulfill the overall test. So what exactly the overall test is all about? Sir, overall test, the simple test is like this. Revenue from external sales. Now here we will consider only external sales. Internal sales will not be considered for overall test. For materiality test, you consider internal plus external both. But for overall test, external sales will only be considered. Revenue from external sales of reportable segments should be greater than or equal to 75% of the total enterprise revenue. Sir, when I talk about total enterprise revenue, means enterprise revenue will never have internal sales. It will always have external sales only. And that is the reason why here also for the reportable segments, I am considering only the external sales. So this will show whether the reportable segments are covering 75% of the total enterprise sales or not. If they are covering 75% or greater sales of the total enterprise, means they are fully material segments. They can be blindly reported. But sometimes it may happen that reportable segments are not fulfilling. Reportable segments are not fulfilling this condition. 75% is not fulfilled. You can say that, say they are reaching up to 70% of the total enterprise sales. So can I say there is a 5% shortage? So to fulfill this 5% shortage, what management can do? Management can add up one or two more segments as reportable. And when you consider one or two more segments by your own choice for reportable, now when you add them with this, the 75% criteria or 75% threshold can be fulfilled. I'll show you with an example, a numerical example I have. Are you confirmed with the test? Test is not an issue. What is the test saying? Revenue from external sales of reportable segment should be greater than or equal to 75% of the total enterprise revenue. So if they satisfy, no problem. If they don't satisfy, there is a problem. So we'll try to solve one small example over here. We'll try to solve one small example. This is the example that we are solving for para 29, and this example can also be asked as a question. So ABCD 120, 25, 140. So 125, 125, 130, 145. Okay. 55 plus 70, 140, 150. Some problem. 55 plus 70 plus 15 plus 10 plus 20. It's 170. Okay. Now, this is one small example. There are A, B, C, D, E, F, total 6 segments in an enterprise. And these are the revenues from external sales. Revenues from external sales: 55 for A, 75 for B, 15 for C, 10 for D, and E and F also has 15, 15. And the total external revenues is 180. Now, sir, for example, if an enterprise has only 6 segments, right? So the total external sales of all these 6 will be equal to enterprise revenue only, na? Is it becoming 185? 75, 120, 130, 140. Okay. Now it's good for me. Okay, 180. And sir, in this question, in this example, we say that as per para 27, only segment A and B have become reportable. Only A and B has fulfilled the para 27 test. Others have not fulfilled. Now, why they have not fulfilled, that is not my agenda. My agenda is to teach you para 29 test. So already we have fulfilled para 27 and only A and B has fulfilled. Rest others, C, D, E, F has not fulfilled the para 27 test. Correct? Now what we have to check the overall test is to be applied on segment A and B. And segment A and B's total external revenue should be greater than or equal to 75% of the total enterprise revenue. That is 180 rupees. Right now, how I am saying this 180 as total enterprise revenue means, sir, if I am having only 6 segments and external revenues of 6 segments are given, means the total of all external revenues become the total enterprise revenue, right? Because enterprise revenues are externals only. So we'll say A plus B should be greater than or equal to 75% of the total enterprise revenue. Right? So 75% of total enterprise revenue is what? 180. Correct? 75% of 180 should be 135. But sir, A plus B is how much? 55 plus 75. Sir, A plus B comes to only 130. And can I say 130 is not greater than or equal to 135? Yes or no? So can I say A and B cannot fulfill para 29 alone? So what management has to do? Management can add any of the other segments in this so that the threshold limit of 75% is satisfied. So let us check who can be added. Sir, if I add C15 or F15, no problem. It becomes 145. And I want anything greater than or equal to 135. So I can even add C, D, E or F, because even I add D and E, 10 rupees. So 130 plus 10 becomes 140. So the choice would be completely with the management to whom they have to add. Right? So they can add any of the segment and that segment will technically become what? A reportable segment. Even if para 27 not fulfilled, it will still become a reportable segment. So since A and B do not fulfill the overall test, management should add some more segments to fulfill the overall test. So let's take C as reportable. So if C is getting added up, then what will be the answer? A 55 plus B 75 plus C is 15. So 145 is greater than or equal to 135. So therefore segment A, B and C, all the 3 are reportable segments. So you can also get a question on this example, same like this. So this is para 29 materiality, or I would say para 29 overall test. Aparna, what are you doing? I already explained that point. Para 28 gives management the power to report any segment, even if it is not fulfilled para 27. Where were you at that time? and C is helping the enterprise to fulfill the para 27, para 29 test. So C also becomes reportable.
So good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, since A and B did not satisfy the condition, we added segment C, no, sir.
Correct.
So instead of that, shall we add segment D, E, like that? Others also.
Choice is yours. I already told. Choice is entirely of the management.
Okay, sir. But suppose can we add two segments like that, sir? Any two?
Choice is yours. You can take C and E also. Choice
Okay.
is yours. Who said you cannot take? You can take all the 6 also if you want.
Okay, sir.
But then your unnecessary burden of reporting will increase.
Reporting will increase. Yeah, sir. Yes. Okay. Sir.
Right. Yes, Jay.
But sir, why is it necessary if A and B are not fulfilling the condition? Why is it necessary to this para 29?
Sir, para 29 gives you the overall materiality test because para 29 says that if these are your reporting segments, the reporting segment should cover at least 75% of the total enterprise sales.
Acha.
Then only they will be considered as completely material. But if they are not satisfying, means those two segments are not even having 75%, that is 3/4 of the sales.
Mm-hmm.
So what the logic of management is, or I would rather say what the logic of AS 17 is, AS 17 wants you to report those segments which at least show 3/4 of your sales or greater than that.
Right. Okay.
Because they feel that 3/4 or greater sales, if your segments are covering, then they are heavily material segments.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So when they don't fulfill, then you have to add up some more segments to make it fulfill.
Right.
I'll do one thing. I'll show it from here. I want you people to take the screenshots. Don't sit now and copy because we'll be then lagging behind the schedule. So please take the screenshot. This is the first screen of para 29. I'll just change the screen now in the next 5 seconds. So please take a screenshot accordingly. Yes, Ritika.
Sir, can we add even the para 28 segments in this?
So para 28 only gives the management the power to add the segments.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And if you are making any segment reportable, that has to come over here to fulfill the para 29 test.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I'm just changing the screen now. Yes, Ritik.
Sir, so basically para 28 is just an option, sir. If it doesn't satisfy para 27, if the management feels that yes, we should report this, then you add it. Or it can also be added if you feel that it will help you fulfilling the para 29 conditions.
Perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely correct. If any one of the condition in para 27 not fulfilled, then is the segment considered reporting? Why? No, it will not. If para 27 is not satisfied, your segment cannot be reported. Right? Then management may apply para 28. That management knows, yes, it is not fulfilling, but management wants to report it. So management has all the choice in the world to do that. And para 28 gives the management power. Right? So technically, majority of the part of the topic gets over here, and I would make you understand one point that, sir, in exam, majority questions come from reportable segment part only. Para 27, para 29, overall test, that's it. Yes, para 29 is majorly a confirmation test. Means I would say it is the father of materiality. It is bigger than the para 27 materiality test. right? So one type of question that you can get in this particular chapter is on the basis of the para 27 and para 29 test. Para 29 is compulsory test, yes. Para 27 and para 29 both has to be done. Without these tests, you cannot make any segment reportable. So majority questions you can get is with respect to para 27. And you may also get some questions where they will ask you whether the segments can be made or not. I have put one question like that from the module. I have taken a question where you have to decide whether different segments can be made with respect to these products or not. That is one point, right? And one question you can get with respect to the practicality, that is whether the para 27 is fulfilled or not. On that you can get a question. Now, before going ahead to the disclosure part, I would just like to discuss with you people what exactly do you mean by the segment assets, segment liabilities, segment revenues and expenses. The reason is you can also get a direct question of 5 marks, like what is segment Yeah. So, what was I saying? I was talking about the type of question. You can get the practical question, right? And you can also get the theoretical question based on what are segment assets or what are segment liabilities or what are segment revenues and so on. So that is why I've also took the definitions from the module and I've put it in the material that I forwarded, right? So we'll just go across these small definitions, like what is segment asset and what is segment liabilities and so on, because that may come in the exam, right? So let us first discuss what is segment revenue. So segment revenue will comprise of 3 things. First is the portion of the revenue which is directly attributable to the segment. Means I can simply say the revenue which is clearly attributable to a particular segment. Means if I'm talking about Titan Limited, first segment was what? Watches. So revenue directly earned by selling of watches. Then Titan I Plus, second was that I Plus, what we say, spectacles, right? So sale of spectacles, that is directly attributable directly attributable income to the segment. That is first point. Second is relevant portion of enterprise revenue that can be allocated on a reasonable basis to a segment, means allocable revenues. Now, for example, Titan Limited has 4 segments, right? Now, none of these 4 segments have earned. Titan Limited as a whole has earned a revenue, and that revenue is allocated to various segments. So that is called as allocable revenues. So whatever revenues that is allocated by the head office, by the HO to the segments, that will also be considered as a segment revenue. And third is inter-segment revenues. So 3 types of revenues are considered: directly attributable revenue; second, reasonably allocated revenues by the HO; and third, inter-segment revenues. These 3 are considered as revenue, but there are some exclusions. There are 3 exclusions. First, extraordinary items as per AS5, means extraordinary revenue items should be excluded. Second, interest and dividend income should be excluded. And third, gains on sale of investment or settlement of debt should be excluded. But point number 2, that is interest and dividend income, and point number 3, gain on sale of investment or settlement of debt, will be included if the segment is of financial nature. Means lending business, the segment is doing lending business, borrowing business, lending business, financial nature business, doing trading in shares or securities, and then giving the money on what we say loan basis to people, that is called as financial nature. So if it is a financial nature segment, then interest income, dividend income, these all becomes your operating income of the segment. So that should be considered. If you see the segment expense definition, sir, it is exactly same as segment revenue. What is first? The directly attributable expense of the segment. Second, reasonably allocable expenses by the HO. Third, inter-segment expense. So here, whatever income you wrote here, it will all become expense. Exclusions also same. Extraordinary items excluded. Interest expense, dividend expense excluded. Loss on sale of investment or loss on settlement of a debt excluded. But point number 2 and point number 3 will be included if the segment is of a financial nature. Then some more deduction, some more exclusions: income tax expenses, general admin expenses, head office expenses, and other expenses that arise at the enterprise level and relate to enterprise as a whole. Means it is all HO related expenses should be excluded. Means HO related expense, but they cannot be allocable to the segment, because HO related expense which can be allocable to the segment, that is covered here. Right? Means I give you an example. There is one common showroom, and in the common showroom, Titan watches are also sold, Fastrack is also sold, and eyewear is also sold. So technically rent has to be borne by all the three. Right? So that is point number B, the relevant portion of expenses that can be allocated to the segments on reasonable basis. But salaries paid to Titan staff, salary paid to eyewear staff, salary paid to Fastrack staff is considered as what? Directly attributable expenses of the segment. That is what we need to understand. Right? And lastly, we'll go for segment result. Segment result is what? Segment revenues minus segment expenses. That is nothing but profit or loss. Assets, also same logic. The directly attributable assets of the segment plus reasonably allocable segments, reasonably allocable assets to the segment by the HO. Right? Investments, loans advanced will become part of the asset if it's a financial nature. But sir, these are the two main points. Income tax assets, that is deferred tax assets, should be excluded from the total segment asset, and assets used for general enterprise or head office purpose. Means I am talking about such assets of the head office which cannot be reasonably allocable to the segments. Means that is purely held and used by the head office only. So such assets and deferred tax asset will be removed. And in liability also, sir, same logic. Directly attributable liabilities of the segments plus reasonably allocable liabilities of the segment, and loans liabilities will be excluded if it is not a financial nature. If it's a financial nature, you can include that also. And exclusions are what? Income tax liabilities, that is nothing but your deferred tax liabilities should be excluded. And same point, borrowings and other liabilities that are incurred for financing other than operating purposes. So other than operating loans should be excluded. So sir, from segment assets, you please remember this one point, that deferred tax assets are excluded, because maximum a question can be asked will be respect to asset test. And when you are calculating the asset test, that is para 27C. So in that asset test, you have to take segment asset and it should be greater than or equal to 10% of total segment asset. So when you consider the segment asset, deferred tax asset should be excluded. And we'll be doing one question based on this. We have one question. So I would recommend, please, before the exam, you have to just read the segment assets, liabilities, incomes and expenses once. I thought this would be important and would be helpful. That is why I've taken this from the module and put it. Right? So please read it once before the exam. And now lastly, we'll go for the disclosure requirements. And again, entire disclosure requirements, as you can see, it starts from here and it ends somewhere over here. This entire points can be asked in exam for 5 marks. what are the disclosure requirements of AS 17. So technically, disclosure requirements can be asked as a direct question from what chapters? Sir, it can come from AS 7, AS 10, AS 17, AS 18, and AS 24. Because these 5 topics have huge disclosure requirements. So direct questions can be asked from this topic. Like what are the disclosure requirements of AS 7, or what are the disclosure requirements of AS 10, or of AS 17, or of 18, or of 24. So now let us try and understand what are the disclosure requirements. Sir, it is simple. 1 or 2 points are tricky. So there I'll be going very slow, but which are self-explanatory, we'll finish it off quickly. What they say, Accounting Standard 17 is a reporting standard. Hence, disclosure is its core element. The intensity of disclosure is high in case of primary segments. I've already told you this, and low for secondary segments. Okay. For each primary segment, the following has to be disclosed. So for each primary segments, what we are going to disclose? So total segment revenue, that is external plus internal. Segment result. Now to disclose segment result, you also have to disclose segment expense, because segment revenue minus segment expense will give you segment result, that is profit or loss. Segment assets, segment liabilities, capital expenditures incurred during the year, that is new fixed assets purchased, or any building or all is constructed, or it is work in progress going on, depreciation charged for the year, other non-cash expenses during the year. Other non-cash expenses, you can give example of preliminary expenses written off, or you can give example of impairment losses, because impairment losses are also non-cash. So you can take example of those items. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 items to be disclosed. And I can say 8 because segment result means you also have to disclose segment expenses. So I'll just write that point over here. Segment expenses also. So total 8 compulsory disclosures. Total 8 compulsory disclosures for primary segments. Correct? Very simple. Now please understand the disclosures with respect to secondary segments. Now this is a bit tricky, so please be properly focused. Disclosure required for secondary segments. Okay, point number 1. If business segments are primary, then technically the geographical segments become secondary. Then what you have to disclose? Sir, you have to disclose revenue from external customers by geographical location. So location wise, you have to disclose the revenue of external customer, but sir, only of those geographical secondary segments which have fulfilled the 10% test. Means para 27 materiality test. If they are fulfilled, then only they will be disclosed. So sir, I can conclude one thing. The segments which have fulfilled para 27 can only come for disclosures. So don't get confused with this 10% test. 10% test is nothing but the materiality test only. So first thing, what the geographical segment, if they are secondary, they will disclose revenue from external customers by geographical location, assets by geographical location of assets. Now, assets by geographical location of asset means where your factories are located. Because yesterday, if you remember, I said that your geographical segments can either be by the location of your assets or location of your customers. Right? Location of your asset means where your factories or your offices are situated. And location of customer means which areas you get the maximum sales. That is called as the location of the customers. So assets by geographical location of assets. And lastly, fixed assets acquired during the period. So only 3 things to be disclosed. Revenue from external customers. Second, assets of the geographical locations. Asset by geographical locations of the assets. And thirdly, fixed asset acquired during the period. Three things to be disclosed. Right now, from here, some tricky point is starting up. So please focus. If geographical segments are primary, then business segments are secondary. Correct? So if a business segments external sales are greater than or equal to 10% of the total external revenue, or business segment assets are greater than or equal to 10% of the total of all business segments, then for such segments, means I am talking about those business segments which have also fulfilled these two criteria. Only for those business segments, we have to disclose the three things. That is nothing but segment revenue from external customer, segments asset, and fixed assets acquired during the period. Means technically these are the two tests, or I would say these are the two conditions to be also followed by the particular business segments. Now, what are the two tests? The business segments external sales should be greater than or equal to total 10% of the total external revenue. Now in para 27, that is a different test. Now para 27 test has fulfilled. That is why you have come as a reportable segment. But further, you have to fulfill these two tests also if your business segments are secondary reportable. So if business segments are secondary reportable, also apply further these two tests. What is the first test? Segments external sales, business segments external sales is greater than or equal to 10% of total external revenue, or the business segment asset are 10% greater than or equal to 10% of the total assets of all the business segment. So it is or condition, so anyone has to be fulfilled. If anyone is fulfilled, then you have to disclose these three things. That is segment revenue from external customer, segments asset, and fixed asset acquired during the period. So this is one tricky point. Right? Next. Now, sir, I don't find this to be something different. I wonder why this again is written, because I'll read this first, then you will also understand, sir, there is no requirement of writing this again. Also, if the primary geographical segments are based on the location of customers, means the geographical segments are derived on the basis of location of the customers, also make the following. Now, please understand. If I am a primary segment, then can I say I will report all these things that you can see on your screen? You have to report all these. Now, sir, again, they are telling us to report this also. Now, these are nothing but part of this only. These two are nothing but part of the primary reportings that we have done. Now, what extra they are asking? Assets located in each geographic segment. Now, sir, when they are asking me assets located in each geographical segment means, sir, anyhow, I am going to give my segment assets. So my segment assets are anyhow going to cover this. Then additions to fixed asset during the period. Sir, here anyhow I am going to disclose the capital expenses incurred during the period. So I don't find these to be any other separate disclosures, because anyhow, when I'm going to disclose my segment assets, then all my geographical location assets are going to come. And if I've made any additions, then technically it will be covered over here. That is capital expenses incurred during the year. So I don't find this to be any other separate type of disclosure. I consider this as part of this only, part of the above. I hope you're understanding my point. And lastly, if the primary geographic segments are based on the location of asset, means you have derived your geographical segments on the basis of location of the assets, not on the location of the customer, then also make the following disclosure. What disclosure? Sales to external customers for each customer based geographical segment. Means, sir, you have derived your geographical segments on the basis of the assets located in various locations. Means wherever you had an office or wherever you had a factory, for that you have made a geographical segment. means you have not focused on making geographical segments on the basis of the location of your customers. So what they are saying, since your geographical segments are primary, you have already reported segment revenue, segment results, segment assets, everything. But that has to be reported on the basis of location of your assets. So what these people want is you just also give us the disclosure of sales to external customers for each customer based geographical location. So if you are also having customer based geographical location, for that each location, you also tell us what are the sales to external customers. That is also one more disclosure. And I'll tell you one thing. These all disclosures you will come across only when you are doing the audit of a listed company or a level 1 corporate enterprise. I'll tell you the fact, in my real life till now, I have never made a segment report. I have seen segment reports of many enterprises because I was never into traditional practice. Right, I am basically into consultancy, but I don't have a client who is a listed company. Right, as of now, but may have in future. Even my friends who are doing their own chartered accountancy firm, I don't know. No, none of my friends is having the audit of any listed company. If you are having the audit of any listed company or a huge private limited that is having a turnover of 100 or 150 crores, then segment reporting is done. Right, so you will come across this only when you are doing audit of such enterprise, or else it will be on paper only for you. And at least for our inter level, we can just go for the basic points which are given in the standard. That's it. Don't think too much for this, because again this will come in your final level. In Ind AS, we have a Ind AS, I think it is Ind AS 17 only, segments. Ind AS 17 or Ind AS 7, segments. So there again you are going to learn this similar points, but something detailing over there. And there at final level you will also be drafting the segment report. At inter level we are not drafting segment report because for 5 marks drafting a segment report is too big. I think earlier module used to cover one question, but I think the module is also not covering that question, because it is not practically possible to solve that entire segment report for 5 marks. It consumes a lot of time. So they have never asked. I think this AS 17 has been put. Now this is the 4th year of AS 17 that has come, but they have never asked the segment report anytime before. They have never asked. And the chances of asking is remote, because for 5 marks, it's a big question to solve. Yes, Aditya.
Yes, sir, if the company has
Please
to do
speak loudly, sir. Your voice is not audible.
no,
Yeah, please.
if the,
Just 1 minute. Just 1 minute.
okay,
Just
okay,
1 minute.
okay.
Just 1 minute. Yes, sir.
If the company is making segment reports, is it compulsory that they should make a segment reports both on the basis of business segments and geographical segments?
Sir, first of all, the company has to decide who is primary and who is secondary.
Okay.
Right? For primary, they have to
They
give.
should compulsorily do it.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir.
If they are level 1 enterprise.
Okay.
If time permits at the end, I will show you that Titan segment report. I think it should be there in my mail. I have not deleted the mail. So I'll just show you at the end. Right? So examination question, major focus would be on materiality test. And theoretical question on disclosure requirements. Right? So now let us go for the questions and try to understand the materiality test with the help of some questions. Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes.
For a primary enterprise only, materiality test, all the para 27, 28, 29 should be
Sir, I
done.
never said that. I never said that. I said that para 27 is to be applicable on both geographical as well as business segments.
Okay. So
It is to be applied on both.
okay, sir. Next doubt, sir. Para 27, A, B, and C all should be done, sir, for materiality test.
Anyone,
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
anyone. Correct? I want everybody to please come to page number 76. Page number 76, question number 1. This is a favorite question of the institute. This has, I think, in last 4 years, they've asked 2 times this question. And this is there in the module also. Actually, these standards, they should have not put at inter level at least. This AS 17 and AS 22, they should be actually kept for final level only. AS 22 chalo fir bhi fine, it is a practical standard, but AS 17 practical application never comes at least at inter level. So they should have kept it for final only. Or I would say rather than AS 17, they should have added AS 28 impairment of assets. Because anyhow in AS 10 you are learning about impairment. So AS 28 you could have learned impairment in detail. So that is my opinion, is they should have not put 17, rather they should have put AS 28 impairment of assets. That would have been more advantageous. Question number 1. The chief accountant of Sports Limited gives the following data regarding its 6 segments. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 segments in total they have. And if you see in the question, they have given segment assets, individual segment assets and total. Segment result individual also given, and final net profit or loss is also given. Segment revenue, individual segment revenues are given and total is also given. The chief accountant is of the opinion that segments M and N alone should be reported. Is he justified in his view? Discuss. Means he says that only M and N should be reportable. Others need not report. Sir, but who is the accountant to decide? We have to apply para 27 materiality test to decide whether they are reportable or not. So I think all the 3 data is given for applying the materiality test. The first test, para 27 is revenue test, 27B is result test, and 27C is asset test. So everything is provided. So let us first start with revenue test. What is total revenue? 1200. So your individual revenue should be greater than or equal to 10% of 1200. Yes, so what is 10% of 1200? Sir, it should be greater than or equal to 120. So M is greater than 120, 300, so reportable. N is reportable. But sir, O not, P, Q, R. Sir, from O to R, nobody is reportable because they are having revenue lesser than 120. So I think this accountant has only applied revenue test. He forgot to apply the other 2 tests. So let us go for result test now. Sir, now results, I think N and Q. N and Q are both loss making and M, O, P, R are profit making. So I've taken the total profit, it is 100. That is 50 plus 1060 plus 1070 plus 30, So the total profit is 100 and total loss 190 plus 10. 200 is total loss. Losses we always consider as absolute figure. Now 100 or 200, whichever is higher. So 200 is higher. So we take 10% of 200, 20. Means your each segment result should be greater than or equal to 20. Means whether you are at profit or you are at loss, it should be greater than or equal to 20 rupees. So again, M fulfills, N fulfills, O does not, P does not, Q does not. Congratulations, R does it. So now we have got one more reportable segment, M and N R. Now lastly, we'll go and try to apply the asset test. Total assets 200. So 10% of it means each segment asset should be greater than or equal to 20. Correct? M, okay. N, okay. O, okay. P, 20, no problem, because it is greater than or equal to. Q also 20, no problem. But sir, R does not fulfill. Correct? So sir, technically, all my segments are reportable because all my segments are fulfilling any one of the three conditions. So technically, all the segments become reportable. So sir, how to present the answer? Sir, this is going to be a lengthy answer, right? What you have to do is first you have to copy paste entire para 27, all the conditions A, B, C. Then you will also write about para 29. So technically for this question, even if I don't write para 29, it is understood because I have only 6 segments and all the 6 segments are reportable. So it has to fulfill para 29 now, because the total revenue of these segments will be equal to 100% of the enterprise revenue. So actually there is no requirement of even checking the overall test. But sir, we are giving an answer. So for answer, we have to write the provisions properly. And what AS17 say, para 27 should be fulfilled, plus overall test also should be fulfilled. After that, you can report. Correct? So we have to give the answer accordingly. The solutions are given in the JKC material also, and also I have put the solution in the PDF file that I forwarded to you people yesterday. So let's have a look at the solution, what it says. As per AS17 segment reporting, a business segment or geographical segment, both business segment or geographical segment should be identified as a reportable segment if its revenue from sales to external customers and from other transactions with other segments is 10% or more of the total revenue. Now, sir, this is nothing but your revenue test, but it is written in proper English. You can use your own words also. So what it is, revenue from sales to external customers and from other transactions with other segment, means inter-segment. So it is what? Total revenue of the segment, that is internal plus external, should be greater than or equal to 10% of total segments external and internal revenue. Or its segment result, whether profit or loss, is 10% of more of the combined result of all segments in profit or the combined result of all segment in losses, whichever is greater in absolute amounts. I have already told you losses will be considered in absolute figures. And thirdly, its segment asset are 10% or more of the total assets of all the segments. So this is para 27A. It starts from here, para 27A. I'll just para 27A. Para 27B. And para 27C, right? And then they discuss about para 29. So if the total external revenue attributable to the reportable segments constitute less than 75% of the total enterprise revenue, additional segments should be identified as reportable segments, even if they do not meet the 10% threshold, until at least 75% of the total enterprise revenue is included in reportable segments. So it is technically para 29. And now comes the main answer. On the basis of the turnover criteria, only M and N are reportable. On the basis of result criteria, M, N, and R, all the three are reportable. And on the basis of asset criteria, all segments except R is reportable. Since all the segments are covered in at least one of the above criteria, all segments have to be reported upon in accordance with AS17. Hence, the opinion of the chief accountant is wrong. Right? So all the segments will be reported over here. So it's a printed solution. And sir, mark this as important because this has come in exam and also having a chance to again come in exam, because institute doesn't have more questions based on AS17. So these are the only 3 or 4 questions which they keep on repeating. Right? We'll go for the second question. The second is a very simple one. It will not even take 2-3 minutes to complete. Messrs XYZ Limited has 3 segments, X, Y, and Z. So I have written X segment, Y segment, Z segment. Correct? the total assets of the company are 10 crores. So XYZ has a total asset of 10 crore. Segment X has 2 crore of asset. Segment Y has 3 crore of asset. And segment Z has 5 crore of asset. But there is also deferred taxes included in the asset of each segment. And we have learned that deferred taxes should be removed from the segment assets. So in X, there is 0.5 of deferred tax asset. So 2 minus 0.5, 1.5 CR. For Y, we have 0.4 deferred tax. So 3 minus 0.4, it is 2.6 CR. And for Z, it is 0.3. So 5 is total asset minus 0.3. So 4.7 CR. And from the total asset also, I will remove the deferred tax. So what is the total deferred tax? 0.5 plus 0.4 is 0.9. 0.9 plus 0.3 is 1.2. So from 10, 1.2 crore we have subtracted. 8.8 is the total asset. And what is asset test? Asset test says your total segment assets, you should first calculate 10%. So 8.8 into 10%, 0.88. And your each segment's asset should be greater than or equal to 0.88. And that is the case. For X, 1.5 is greater than 0.88, X is reportable. 2.6 greater than 0.88, Y is also reportable. And Z is also reportable. And that is what they are asking. The accountant contends that all the 3 segments are reportable. Yes, he is absolutely correct. So you have to comment. Because all the 3 segments are fulfilling the asset test. So all the 3 are reportable. Right? So the same calculations are shown in the solution also. So I'll show you the solution for this. Now what they say, according to AS17 segment reporting, segment assets do not include income tax asset, that is deferred tax asset are not included. Therefore, the revised total assets are 8.8 crores, that is 10 minus 1.2 deferred taxes. Segment X holds 1.5 crore assets, that is excluding deferred tax of 0.5. Y holds 2.6 crores and Z holds 4.7 crores. Thus, all the 3 segments hold more than 10% of total assets. So 10% of total asset was 0.88 and all the segments are having assets greater than 0.88. So technically, all segments are reportable segments. All segments are reportable. Right. So these are the 2 questions which are covered from the GKC material, and 1 extra question I've put from the module. So we'll do this extra question also. You'll find this in module. It's a good question. Now what it says, Microtech Limited produces batteries for scooters, cars, trucks, and specialized batteries for inverters and UPS. How many segments should it have and why? Now please understand, the base product is battery. End of the day, they are making battery only. But battery for scooter, truck, and cars, that is basically called as automobile battery. And battery for inverter and UPS, which is generally used in offices or homes. Correct? So please understand, do they have similar type of customers? Do they have similar risk and rewards? Because on that basis you have to answer. And should I make separate segments for car battery, scooter battery, and truck battery? Or they are of similar nature products? They can be considered as one group. Can I consider them as one group? The answer is yes. Because technically the risk and reward of these automotive batteries are very much common. But sir, the risk and returns of the automotive battery and UPS inverter battery is not same. Because see, when I talk about the automotive battery, it depends on factors like the condition of the car. Because if you are maintaining a good condition car, then battery sales will come in 4 or 5 years. Then condition of the roads or highways, you can say. and technically the customer base for automotive battery will be technically greater than home and inverter and UPS battery, right? And sir, when I talk about the UPS and inverter battery, the sales will only take place in those areas where there is a power cut problem. Basically in the village areas or small cities where power cut is an issue. Now today at my place, morning 7:30 to 10:30, we didn't have power. The power came at 10:30. Yesterday also it happened the same way. Yesterday also the power came at 10:30. So for first half an hour, I was taking my lecture with the mobile hotspot. After that, my Wi-Fi got started. So power cut problem, but we have not installed the inverter because this is our second home and we generally don't stay for such long. And this is this COVID time and all, that is why we are staying here. But generally we come for 5 or 6 days and we go to, and we stay in Mumbai only. But inverter and UPS batteries, it completely, the risk and returns completely depend on the area, the locations. Means where there is a power cut, and it also depends upon the types of customer. Because sir, inverter and UPS is not in the reach of everybody. Only the people who are earning good can afford it. So standard of living also is a point which comes with respect to sale of inverter, batteries and UPS. So technically we can make two segments over here, automobile battery and inverter battery. Let us read what answer they have given. In case of Microtech Limited, the basic product is battery. Okay. But the risk and return of the batteries for automobiles and batteries for inverter and UPS are affected by different set of factors. So their risk and return are not affected by same factors, because if it is affected by same factors, then you cannot make two different segments. You have to consider everything under one segment called as batteries. In case of automobile battery, the risk and returns are affected by the government policy, road conditions, quality of the automobiles, etc. Whereas in case of battery for inverters and UPS, the risk and return are affected by power conditions, standard of living, etc. So it is affected by two different factors. Therefore, it can be said that Microtech Limited has two business segments, that is automobile batteries and batteries for inverters and UPS. So this type of question can also be asked in exam, where you have to answer whether these are two different segments or this has to be considered as one segment. So such type of questions can also come in exam, right? So here we have completed our AS17 topic. AS17 topic is completed.